Hi, my name is Heather Alexis, and I am the director and editor for No Strings Attached. This is Bao, technically his stunt double, and we're going to be answering some questions for you. I'm excited for these because these are the post questions, and where I am a director for my own stuff, my heart lies in post-production and editing, so let's get in. So, how difficult was it to match the sound to a scene with the sound design and the Foley? I wouldn't say it was too difficult because we were trying to build a very out-of-this-world soundscape. A lot of the sound design for the balloon, where it was definitely hard because it's a balloon, we're kind of building a character, it was really fun because we were able to take each scene and give it a specific sound for each of the balloon characters. So for example, in the blue scene, because we're at a beach, the blue balloon sounds are all water-based and all beach sounds. Versus in the forest, with the orange scene, which has to do with health, all the sounds are hospital noises or noises that are sharp and beeps. And that was a really fun little Easter egg for people to notice, where it blends into the design of the scene, but each of the balloons has their own distinct personality through the sounds. And speaking of the balloon personality, it was really interesting creating a character in post-production. When we were on set, I was acting as Bao and kind of giving the subtext and playing against Sylvie as the character. When we were doing scenes where Bao would be attacking her, I would be making the noises of Bao and I would be kind of acting as him and puppeteering him. But in post, we had to kind of design the character as a whole. And that was really fun because working with Atlas, our animator, he essentially got to play Bao and come up with the character design, the personality, the eyebrow raises, the eye movement, and we were able to design the different versions of Bao per color that he is. And so yellow Bao has big eyes, he's innocent, very naive, trying to help, versus purple Bao is extremely judgmental, rolling their eyes. And you can tell the different personality through the drawings, which it was just really fun seeing that character come to life after we already shot it. How did you know which scenes to cut and which scenes to keep? I think it really helped that I was the editor, because on set I was kind of cutting the scenes out based on what we were getting. I was able to choose what shots we needed to remove based on how I was gonna cut it. And as we were filming on set, I was kind of already cutting the film in my head, so I knew which coverage we needed and which coverage we didn't. Where it was hard is having the director hat and the editor hat on, where sometimes you have to kill your darlings and you have to remove stuff that you worked really hard to have. So there were moments where there were monologues that were much longer than they currently are, that I had friends and crew members watch it who helped me kill my darlings and remove things to make the scenes stronger. That was a really interesting learning experience playing both of those roles. My proudest moment in post-production was finishing. Oh my word, our post-process was a long time. I believe it took us 8 months to finish because we were working on completely animating every frame that Bao was in for the movie. And so that takes a very long time. And we were also working with VFX, we were working with color, we were completely designing soundscapes from scratch to kind of build these characters, and then we were doing the mix and we were working on the music and how the music interacted with the sound, and I really wanted to give post the time that it needed, and finishing it was a very proud moment for me because it was a big feat, basically being able to work with all those different departments and kind of get through it. Like, working in animation for the first time was so rewarding for me, and working with Atlas was just such an amazing experience, and I can't wait to do more animation because it's so freeing being able to design whatever you want. So having that all kind of culminate in the end product, I'm excited for you to see. What was the most difficult and time-consuming aspect? I mean, definitely the revisions. We had kind of a process where everyone was working separately in the different departments and sending things back for me to review, and we would be giving notes and kind of working together on that. And And in doing the revisions, we were kind of rebuilding the entire story. I've always thought of post-production as the last chance to rewrite the story, and we really were rewriting the story by designing the character and putting everything together. And so I think that was the most challenging aspect, was keeping us on the timeline, but also giving us the time to redesign what the story was. What was the hardest scene to create music for and why? Ooh, that's a great question, because every scene had a very specific style for the score. There were different instruments used for different balloons based on the vibe of the scene. So I knew, for example, that I really wanted there to be strings in the orange scene to sound very harsh, versus the purple scene needed to sound like a club and have synths. And then deciding when the music was going to play our theme for Bal and Faith, and being able to work with my composer Mike was a really fun experience, because we got to kind of work together on designing all of that and deciding when those themes were going to come back. And having him kind of pitch these ideas of when the theme would take a different turn for a different emotional beat was really cool to see. What was the weirdest sound used in the film? This is my favorite question, because the club scene, we were having such a hard time designing for that scene, because it's very different than the rest of the film music wise, and trying to come up with balloons talking to each other is definitely an interesting experience, because having air noises just was not working. And what was really cool was when we were trying to pick the sound, we were designing the club scene and we heard these cicadas chirping, and I was like, wait, that's perfect for the club. And so we ended up recording the cicadas in nature, just out in the real world, and putting that into the film as the chitter chatter in the background, and that just blended so perfectly with the club music that we had, and was just a very random happy coincidence. And I think that that was like the coolest sound that we used. What was Foley like? Foley was fun, because I like to be very involved in the Foley process. I think being a Foley artist is so fun and so cool, and it was a really great experience for me because I got to help with the Foley. I was very lucky in that I got to do a lot of the sound effects for my main character, and so I got to kind of play her. I had all of the costumes, and so I got dressed up in all of the costumes for the clothing wrestle. I was doing the movements. I got to relearn the waltz and do the footsteps for that, and being able to do that again in post really meant a lot to me. My favorite editing technique that I used was definitely match cuts. That's kind of my thing as an editor. I really like match cuts, and so that heavily impacted how the scenes were cut together and how the scenes started and ended. That was a huge thing on set, being able to measure the exact distance between the camera and our subject, making sure that it lined up perfectly, and then making sure that I was capturing our beginning and our ending moments of every scene so that it would cohesively flow. It was great having Alyssa on board as my assistant editor, because she was able to help me find the perfect moments to cut with the match cut, and I'm just really happy with how it all turned out, and I'm excited for you to see specifically our final match cuts of the film, because that was a last minute addition that happened on set where we had a very specific way the film was going to end, and I had a thought on set where I was like, but what if we also threw these in? And last minute got these extra shots, and I'm really glad we did, because I think that it means so much more to have the film end with kind of like an extra little subtext and Easter eggs at the end. That's it for the post questions. I hope you enjoyed. We had to re-export so many times, it never ends, but I'm really proud of what we have and can't wait to share it with you guys. Bye!